Paul Saladino says that honey increases testosterone in men and improves insulin sensitivity. True or false? I'd like to see the research. I've always said to the to people like Paul and people like Ray Pete, show me the research. They always come up with these ridiculous studies that are sort of fabricated, but show me the actual mechanistic research. Doesn't exist. So we know that basically when you like malnourished or under-eating, deliberately under-eating, it has a negative effect on testosterone, under-eating. So any amount, so if you eat, to the requirements of the body, you'll get an increase in testosterone. That's normal. It's why the vegans who are basically malnourishing themselves, traditional vegans who under-eat and stuff like that, or some people in the low carb like keto community that are doing more plant-based keto and are severely under-eating, because for them it's all the ketones, increasing fat oxidation and just the ketones, high ketones. Well, those people may be under-eating, B vitamins and a whole lot of other things and sufficient protein and things like that. And let's not forget, a lot of these hormones require cholesterol. Ketones aren't going to cut it. You require cholesterol in the diet. You require, a number of the amino acids. And if you're not getting enough of those things, then the body is going to go, well, I need cholesterol, amino acids, certain things specifically for the important functions of the body. And so I'm going to deprive other things that are less necessary. It's like, if you starve yourself, your endocrine system is going to be in the toilet. Your hormonal system is going to just be in the toilet. Why? Because, that's not a priority. Keeping you alive is a priority. And so, it doesn't matter what you eat. If you're getting enough nutrients in that the body requires, your testosterone will raise. Now, there can be a few things that actually can lower your testosterone. I've already made a video on that, covering that point. The things that can actually affect, but, to say that actually any food, if you're getting sufficient or slightly over the requirements, will basically raise testosterone. And testosterone varies. There's a circadian rhythm to it as well. So depending on when you're doing the test, and he is a doctor, he knows how that works. And he can plan to do a test at a specific time when his T is going to be the highest in the day, to go, look here. So anybody can fabricate anything on the internet. I go, show me the evidence scientifically, mechanistically. They can't. They always run away when I challenge them to do that. So it's bullshit what they claim. Improving insulin sensitivity. Well, honey actually, because it's got more fructose, tends to not raise insulin as much. I don't consider that improving insulin sensitivity. Against what? The SAD diet? Obviously, it's going to be better than the SAD diet, because the insulin to glucagon ratio is going to be lower, and glucagon tempers. So if you're having more animal foods that he does in his diet, it will raise glucagon. Glucagon will tend to temper down, hold down, that is, insulin to some extent. And because he's putting fructose and he's not putting a whole lot of glucose in there, he's putting mostly, and he's physically active. So he's taking up that glucose into glycogen stores that he's repleting. So he's in a low-grade Randall cycle activation, but still in a high level of glycation, and you can see it on his face. So he may be more insulin sensitive to a SAD dieter. That's true, and somebody that actually is a couch potato because he's doing a lot of physical activity. Like in the past, people ate some carbs and did a lot of physical activity and had really good sensitivity, and then became office workers and basically lost that sensitivity because they weren't as physically active. But how long can you sustain that? You can't sustain that into old age. You become weaker. You can't actually put your joints through so much punishment, and it will catch up to him eventually. That is the reality. He doesn't want to accept that reality. Fine. That's his problem if he doesn't want that. But to make claims that he does, N of ones, look, why don't you think I do any tests? Because anyone can fabricate anything. I show you scientific evidence and mechanistic studies. I don't sit around parading tests because I know they can be fabricated. I can, even though I tend to be not a hyper responder on the cholesterol front, I can actually push, I usually get about 3.7 or 4 point something millimoles in terms of my total cholesterol. I can push it really low, close to nearly the top of the twos. Why? Because I have the genetics, the ApoE genetics. And if I do the Feldman protocol, I can push it really low and then go parade and go, look how good my cholesterol is. It's nonsense. This sort of stuff that people do. So I usually say to people, you're wasting your time, and influencers that do that are doing that to manipulate people by saying, look, it happens to me, so it should happen to everyone. Bullshit. We don't share the same genetics. There's a whole lot of factors that are at play, lifestyle factors, physical activity, so many things that affect testosterone, sensitivity, insulin sensitivity, all sorts of things. It is absolute bullshit to make claims not based on experimental evidence or demonstrating mechanism. And that's why they always run with shit in their pants, because they can't make that. They can only make N of one claims and stuff like that. As I said, me and Bart don't do that sort of bullshit for the simple reason that we know it's bullshit. Because that's what everybody else, a lot of other people do. That is not the basis. We use the N15 archaeological evidence. We use sound science, sound mechanisms, sound archaeological evidence to base our arguments on these subject matters. All, Paul uses is basically bullshit like a lot of the others. He doesn't have strong evidence. And it's usually industry funded shit as well, fabricated. And it's against whom? Sad dieters that are they comparing. So for me, that's just nonsense, the whole lot of it. I've had, arguments with these people, and I've had called them out, I actually noticed that even on some of the repeat channels, me and Bart are considered, really, you can't talk to those people, and a whole lot of other things that where me and Bart are pseudoscientists, and a lot of other things, but they won't argue our points. They'll throw innuendos. They'll argue the person, like they'll have a go at me and Bart and call us all sorts of names, but they won't argue the points that I make. Why? Because they don't have the scientific understanding, or they don't have the evidence, or it goes against their narrative. So